Hey, peace family, your boy Fonzie Neutron tapping in. Back to online.com. Hope everybody is good out there. Been quite a few topics popping off this week. I definitely wanted a chance to chime in on some of the conversation. I did try my best to get a couple of Muslim apologists on the platform, but they either seem to be either busy or they want to talk off the record. They don't really want to speak on the record, perhaps in regards to this situation. Yeah, so there's been quite a few incidents that have happened this past week, including the number one trending conversation: should Jihad GP Dr. Wahid Asif Shaida be suspended from the NHS? So this comes after we've seen an interview on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show with a doctor by the name of Wahid Asif Shaida from the UK, who it's been reported is also the head of a group called Hibs Utahir, which is a group in the UK which is an Islamist extremist group according to some. Now, he did an interview on Piers Morgan and he spoke quite candidly in refusal of condemning Hamas and the atrocities on October the 7th. So this has led to a lot of backlash. He was even asked by Piers if he wants Sharia law for the UK, to which he couldn't unequivocally give an answer. So, we've seen a lot of people chime in. We've seen Muslim apologists chime in from Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa. We've seen apostate prophet and others who have been critical of Islam speak out and give their thoughts. So we know a lot of people, we should mention, have a fear when it comes to critiquing Islam, because we've seen people attempt to kill those who have criticized Islam in the past, including Salman Rushdie, and even more locally in the UK, Hatun Tash at Speaker's Corner. Attempted murders on her life. Even just recently, we seen in the paper there was another young Muslim from Brighton in the UK who subsequently had been arrested for a murder plot on Hatun Tash. So guys, there's so much going on. To me personally, there's a lot of victimhood when it comes to the Muslim community. You can't be seen to criticize them or anything, because nowadays you do that and we're hearing straight away Islamophobia, when the crazy thing is, you watch things like Speaker's Corner, you watch most debate forums and stuff you see with Muslims, and in my experience and in my observation, they're generally the quickest ones to turn to violence and berating others in a negative way. So I find it kind of strange how those same ones are always the ones that try and play victim. Now, we've seen a video with this guy, Ali Dawa, I believe, and he was saying, Sharia law is so great and it would be good for the UK for X and for Y. I personally don't believe that. I think for some of these guys, if that's the confines that you want to live under, then why not go to a Muslim country, live in a Muslim country. You want to live in the UK for its fecundities and benefits that you get, but you also want to try and change the state into something else that suits yourself, and that isn't something that I necessarily agree with. It comes off very totalitarian, or some may say very Marxist. So guys, in terms of this doctor, I personally think he should be suspended, for breaking his Hippocratic oath to do no harm and live an exemplary life. I don't believe that is something that he's doing, and many would agree otherwise, especially with him inferring that he would want Sharia law for the UK, inferring that it would be the best, the Islamic standard of law. And when you hear some of these guys talk about Islam, and I'm not anti-Islamic, but they're always quick to speak the high points, which I get any salesperson would do. But, like the Ali Dawa guy was saying, we want Sharia for the UK because there's all these crimes and homelessness and so on and so forth. Now, I would ask the question, do some of these conditions exist even in countries within the Muslim world? Because I'm pretty sure they do. They talk as though that you've got this holy law that is operating, and no trouble happens, everything's all perfect, and so on. And it really doesn't come across that way when you actually look at some of the things happening within these regions. Why are they constantly at wars with each other? Even within some of these same groups who follow the same ideology, it seems to be a high propensity for a lot of them to be getting into war and conflict with not only themselves but others around them. So we did also hear, in contrast, in regards to the Israel Hamas war and that situation, some hostages were found killed, reportedly by Israel, and some say it's mistaken or friendly fire. Now, there's so many people going backwards and forwards on this. I did want to get an apologist on here, as I said, from the Muslim or the Hamas community, but they didn't really want to pull up. So, I'm not one of those guys who likes to keep constantly talking just to hear myself or my own voice. I want to hear some of you guys' thoughts. Do let me know in the comments. I want to chime back in with some more. In regards to Hatun Tash, Speaker's Corner, I do plan on pulling up there sometime soon. I'm not going to say when. In the meantime, definitely want to keep thoughts and prayers up for everybody there. And, we just want to say it should be a place where people can go and speak their mind without having to have fear of terrorism. It's one thing, bad enough we're looking at all this terrorism happening all around the world, but to see this terrorism happening within the UK is definitely a scary thing. So on the back of some of these interviews that we saw, we seen Douglas Murray on the Piers Morgan show, and he actually was quite a standout. He asked a lot of tough questions that, to me personally, the pro-Palestinian guests, they had no answers for. He spoke candidly about the situations within the UK and them wanting to change things. When I say them, a proportion of the Muslim community who would, rather Sharia law in the UK. Now, we did see a couple of days later there was a Muslim apologist by the name of Dilly Hussein, and he was also on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show. And it was interesting because I believe himself and a few members of the Muslim community had called for some kind of boycott of the Piers Morgan show. Now, I don't know if they necessarily wanted the show to be boycotted itself per se, or if it was more so of a boycott in terms of them speaking towards the Muslim community and not wanting any of the Muslim community to further go on to the Piers Morgan show, which I feel is a shame, because even though we know Piers doesn't agree with terrorism and a lot of stuff, he definitely gives a voice to the pro-Palestinians, whether you're pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas. He gives a voice to people to speak on their side of the issues, and he has said quite candidly in the past that he condemns some of the actions of Israel also, and he wants peace holistically within the region for both parties. Now, I actually echo those sentiments, and I think there's a lot of people around the world that do, but unfortunately what we're seeing is, for small groups of people, they want to refuse to condemn the atrocities that happened on October the 7th, sort of, I guess, acting as though Israel deserved it, or it was just, they come back to this story of Palestine. And it's kind of interesting. It's like when you watch a lot of these debates in Speaker's Corner and stuff, for instance, and when you speak to some of these Muslims and, you ask them a specific question with a specific answer, they go off on all of these kind of tangents and go round and round in circles sometimes, which people call the Muslim shuffle, or sometimes they throw it back onto you like it's tit for tat, if that makes sense. Like, so if you say to them, for instance, why does your religion teach this? They say, oh, well, no, your religion teach this. So you say, why did you do this? Oh, no, because you did this. So there's a lot of that kind of childish, backwards and forwards, tit for tat mentality, which can be quite petty. Now, I know especially some will feel, oh, well, this is a serious matter, we're dealing with human life and stuff, of course. So even more so, it should be something that people should be even less petty about, in my humble opinion, and be more mature. Also, I was going to say there's a lot of conflict between Muslims as well. So sometimes it makes it even more difficult when people do criticize or when people do speak on their concerns, because you ask them one thing and then they will say, oh, well, no, we don't believe that. That's, somebody else's interpretation, or, you've got to check this group or you've got to check that group. So they constantly appear to be moving the goalposts when it comes to being challenged or criticized. But one thing we know that they don't move the goalposts for is when it comes to recruiting. So it's definitely an interesting one. I want to know you guys' thoughts in the comments. I do have some more content to re-upload, and this is actually some old content with I believe a Shia Muslim we interviewed a couple of years ago, and he speaks out towards where he feels some of this Islamic terror has surfaced from. So once again, that's quite interesting, because I could speak to a different Muslim and he would say, oh, there's no such thing as Islamic terror, and no other Muslim would say that. And then you would speak to another one, they'll tell you something different. So oftentimes you end up going around in a circle, just trying to find out some information. And to me, that makes things a bit more confusing. And we're not really looking for authors of confusion. We're looking for authors of righteousness and truth and stuff that's going to steer us down the right path and give us the information that we need to move forward. But I definitely want to say thoughts and prayers to everybody that's been affected by the current conflict. People who have been affected by conflicts in the past. I definitely want to say thoughts and prayers up to the victims of the October 7th massacre and kidnapping, especially the women who were brutally assaulted, raped unceremoniously. And I believe that should be a war crime, and it should be called out as a war crime. There's no room for, whether your religious text says it or not, there's no room for saying, well, if it's in the middle of a war, you have the right to just have your way with these women. I don't agree with that. I stand against it. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, bonus content, and hopefully I can get an apologist from the Muslim community on to speak, and we can explore this a bit more. Peace.
It's the diary of a top black man for sure. It's the diary of a top black man. It's the diary of a top black man. DOA, TBM, tired of that, we be them. Hear me, friend? On the block, we began. Take it to all the world with internet. All you know how we set, drop the low and the hot with the news. On point, ain't no showing out like some for them views. It's the diary of a top black man. It's the diary of a top black man for sure.